This is a Rogue Media Network podcast.
Please note that this episode contains depictions of self-harm and suicide. For something a little less heavy, please feel free to check out one of our other episodes.
Bros and heroes. Gonna tell you about bros and heroes. Gonna tell you about comic books, costumes, facts, boots, and other stuff.
In this week's issue, Mr. Miracle, Part 3.
Welcome into Bros, Foes, and Heroes. I am Zach, joined as always by, at least for the rest of this month, the miraculous one.
Hello,
Mr. Mike, because we're keeping in
Howdy.
theme here.
Yeah. No, this has been great. I've really enjoyed learning about this because I really had no idea.
Yeah. And
Mr. Miracle was one of those that I just like, oh.
And again, this is we are diving into part 3 today of 4 parts. So next week we will wrap up the entire series. But the beauty of it is, with it being 12 issues and the way the story works out, is for us to break it up like this. It kind of ends on great plot points too, of where it seems like we have a new beat after each episode to kind of hold us over till the next one. Just kind of a quick little recap from part 2 to catch us back up here is we found out that Big Bar is pregnant. We also find out that back from way before that Highfather had been killed, so Orion was now ruler of New Genesis, and we ended the last issue finding out that Orion has now been killed by Darkseid, and Mr. Miracle, Scott-Free himself, is now the new Highfather or ruler of New Genesis, if you will. So,
Can I tell you a secret?
go ahead.
I used to think it was Dark Seed.
It is kind of spelled like that.
That's what it looks like. Yeah, that's what I always thought it was because I never got into it. Right.
Yeah, no.
So anytime I saw Darkseid, I would be like, oh, Dark Seed.
Well,
There he
I
is.
spelt it wrong forever because I always thought it was
Really?
S-I-D-E because
Yeah.
it would make sense
Yeah.
because I always heard it first.
It's more
and
like-
never saw it, but it is.
It's more like a German pronunciation or something, I guess.
kind of, yeah.
Yeah.
But there's another character, Desaad, that's kind of like that too from the world.
Desaad.
Yeah,
I love their water. It's good stuff.
I think Coke makes it.
Oh.
But
Never
so
mind. I don't
well,
like it.
that's all it took. So Scott is now
Nestle's ruining the planet.
going to become a father himself
Yeah.
after he thought he was going to be executed.
Yeah.
But
Things changed quickly
things
for him.
changed very
They did,
quickly.
Yeah.
Found out, no, I'm going to be a dad instead. I'm going to talk to my brother about, hey, maybe, we don't execute me and we find a way to work this through,
Yeah.
only to find out somebody has killed my brother. And now I rule this, or I am the leader of this entire planet.
Is that Berta?
No,
On this
no,
picture? Who is this?
no, it's not. Okay. So as
It's a
we
very
open
tall woman with a yellow headdress and neck thing, and she looks like I don't know why I recognize. Is that like One Piece? Does that look kind of like the One Piece thing, or she's got like a little skull and crossbones?
I think the
on her
skull and
head or
crossbones
something.
makes you
Yeah.
think that.
Okay, all right.
But this is, I don't know if you remember when we did the Funky Flash Man episode
Mhm.
of where the female Furies that were trying to come and attack Barda and Scott there because they had escaped.
Yeah.
This is the group.
Okay,
So Barda,
okay.
we talked about it a little bit, and it brought it up at the first part of the story where it says that she was the leader of the female Furies.
Mhm.
They're this group of just, like Amazon-like warriors
Right.
from Apocalypse that she
Right.
led.
Right.
And these are the other 4 of them is what they are.
So this is a Runaways after Joan Jett left.
Is
that what that is? Yeah, okay.
No, but
Gotcha.
so it's like, it's all the female Furies. Barda left, so she's no longer a part of them, but they still
Mhm.
are on Apocalypse and fight for Darkseid
Yeah.
and stuff.
Yeah.
So in a way,
The albums aren't as good, though.
no, they're not.
Yeah.
But in a way, they're kind of like her sisters.
I
at
get it.
least in a
Yeah.
sense for this story.
Well, like sisters in battle, that kind of
All
thing.
that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And it'll make more sense than 2 of it once
Okay.
we get in there.
All right.
I'll show you what I like to do then, and I noticed that they're back here then now, since it has the collection of all the covers,
Mhm.
not only the alternate ones.
By the way, that's what we were talking about. Is one
Oh,
of those
yeah, I'm
alternate
sorry.
Covers. No, it's fine.
So
it's fine.
I guess I should explain myself. There is the cover for issue 6. The Nick Darrington cover is 4 of the female Furies kind of all standing around each other. And I think it's Mad. I always forget their names. That's why I had to
It's a cool
go
cover.
ahead and look at it. It is.
Yeah.
But Mad Harriet is holding both Barda's helmet and
okay.
Scott Free's
Yeah,
mask.
like she got them both. or
Yeah,
something,
and they
yeah.
look very just kind of imposing there.
And Do you know what this?
Lashina.
Lashina.
Remember, she has the lashes that look very on the
but
nose.
she looks like she ought to be like in tooling around with Pinhead.
Yeah,
something
I was
from
about to say
Hellraiser.
Hellraiser.
She looks a little Hellraiser-ish.
So,
and this one looks like a devil priest.
Burn of Death.
Yeah, there we go. That's right on the nose. Burn of Death.
And then that is Stompa.
Stompa.
Yeah. She's a big kind of,
Loved her second album.
And then Big Barda was obviously a part of them.
Yeah.
So they'll come up. They appear here in this issue, and that's why they're on the cover here.
Remember that song where it featured Kanye on Stompa's second album?
The third one.
Did I misspeak?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Well, people forget about so people don't really count the second. We don't have time for that. We'll save that for the day.
Sure. That's for our music show later. Yeah.
There are a bit of time jumps we've noticed a little bit through here, obviously with the growth of his beard, and we have another one to start. Issue 7. I quoted as issue 6 earlier.
Yeah, we're good.
We're doing issue 7 through 9 today, and then we'll close out next week with 10, 11, and 12 to close out the story. So, issue 7, we are now on our way to the hospital as we've jumped the 9 months through.
Yeah.
Well, actually, we don't know how far along Barda was when she told Scott.
Sure.
But we have jumped ahead in time now to where it's time for the delivery of the baby.
Well, we also don't know if her gestation period is different.
That's true too, since they're not from
exactly.
They're new guys.
Yeah.
And you can tell, like when they're pulling up both of the drawings on their faces, they're very worried. They're nervous. Obviously, it's a big day. We have the Kirby introduction like we do over all of these, and the nice bold Mr. Miracle font to go in, which I just love the way they do it.
I like the way this looks. Like it looks very sun drenched, like almost like you're thinking about the 70s or something. Like the colors are a little muted and they're a little yellow, like it's old film or something. It's very well done.
It's all great about this, and it's part of the things that I've loved of that we've kind of talked about between the differences and just the color that's used between the things that are going on in the story, not to mention how like Earth is usually brighter and more vibrant, and when they're on Apocalypse and away from it, it even has like the borders around the pages are black and stuff like that, just to kind of make you feel different. It kind of has different tones. It's really great color work.
These make me feel like, oh, these are humans.
Yeah.
Rather than, this is when we're just taking them for people.
And that's what the beauty of it is this story does a good job of kind of flashing back and forth, and we spend just as much as time on the human element of these people as we do the other part. But I think that this is just a more human story than most superhero stories are. So we obviously, though, with all the serious stuff that they do deal with, we got a good amount of humor in there as well. And the first joke that I love from this is they pull up to the hospital, and I didn't know this is a thing. Obviously, they're out in California here, so maybe it is where it's there. It's not here. But he goes, the guy tells him like, hey, you can't park here. There's a parking garage over on Olympic. And he goes, oh no, we read online. Like there's valet parking here.
Sure.
And he's like, yeah, I'm the valet. And he goes, okay, can you park it? And there's a little bit of silence. And he's like, there's a parking lot over on Olympic. Like, it's just like, and he's like,
but I don't,
that's the point. And she's just like, all right. So they go, they find the parking lot, and they're able to go and get her all hooked up to the monitors as they sit there and they get ready for
baby time.
The first new god to be born on Earth. Like, this is massive.
Okay.
You have to think about it, because they escaped. They're the first two.
I guess you're right.
This is really big. They don't know, it's a lot of, what do you call it? Unknown territory. Uncharted territory.
Yeah.
There we go.
And by the way, the art has gone from this yellowing kind of vintage look to this very blue, cool, calm,
but also
color
kind of
scheme.
Yes, and then but also more hospital feeling.
Yes, it does feel very sterile.
Yes, like the color work.
No, it's perfect. Yeah, it's wonderful.
So they're sitting there, and I love the sound work of it too, and it just catches their.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
There we go. That's great.
Well, I'd say leave that in because it needs to be a warning to people. Don't F with the coffee machine. Just saying, your day's not going to go well.
Hold on. Oh man,
yeah. I think I may have broken the coffee machine downstairs.
He did, and not just like broken the coffee machine.
I almost did it on purpose, which really sucks. If I were not me, I'd be mad at me.
You know, we haven't really dove into this too much. When somebody tells you like, just because it doesn't say you shouldn't put two of
Sure.
something in there.
Yeah, I get that.
Anyway,
This seems like a conversation I had with my mother a lot when I was younger.
So it does just a great job here in the hospital of them sitting there, just kind of them waiting. It's him on his phone. It's her.
Well,
kinda just
he's also in
looking
a
up.
Superman shirt.
Yes, another
T-shirt.
Superman t-shirt. Another one of just the how he likes to rotate through his superhero shirts. So they're sitting there and he's looking on his phone. They're just listening to the beeps. And then there's a boom, like a boom tube has gone off.
Yeah.
And the look on Scott's face immediately changes.
He's
like, yeah, who is this?
Yeah.
Who's showing up? Because he's trying to think,
Yeah.
hey, we're at war. Who's coming to the hospital? And your reaction there is the exact same one that Barda has.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where he goes, or Scott says to Barda, you said they weren't coming. And she's like, I talked to them. They told me they weren't going to come. And he's like, I'm literally at war with these people.
Yeah.
And she kind of stops him and goes, my womb is getting ripped apart by your obnoxious new Genesis spawn. I don't have time. And he's just kind of like, all right, fair point.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so he's like, they're out there with everybody else. I guess I need to go talk to them. And so he goes out into the waiting room, and there they are. They're the female Furies.
They're just sitting there.
Yeah, sitting there waiting in the waiting room.
Like they don't look like freaking weirdos.
No. And one of them, it's like Bernadette just asks where she is. Matt Harriet starts speaking in rhymes.
Rhymes?
That's what she does. She's mad.
Okay.
So she kind of like talks,
She looks like a witch, is what she looks like.
A little bit.
Yeah.
And then Lashina seems to be the only one that's kind of just like cool with the whole thing. She's like, tell Barda, I said, we didn't need to come. They wouldn't listen to me. And so now we're here. We just hope that she's okay. Right. Like I told them we shouldn't have come.
Sure.
Like Lashina's the only one, oddly enough, in this,
Yeah.
And he's like, no, it's fine. We're all here. Barda will like this. And
I'm just surprised they don't want to kill him.
We're gonna get, and she's like, you scot free, you're gonna be dead as a tree. And then the rest of them kind of start arguing. Well, a tree's not, just arguing amongst themselves. And he's like, yeah, y'all are fine to stay out here, but y'all aren't allowed in the room.
Yeah.
Nobody's allowed in the room.
Sure.
And he walks back in and he tells her, I told them they weren't allowed in the room. And she's like, are they? And he's like, he doesn't even respond if they are or not. And he's like, so how are you feeling? He doesn't want to deal with her family, I guess, in a way.
Sure.
Is how it's playing with this.
Yeah. No.
They're sitting there and she's talking about how she's ready for it to be over already, wants to go home. And he just yells out, how about Ironbreaker? That was my great uncle, Ironbreaker. People liked him. He died at the Frozen Temple siege. Icicle through his eye. He's just throwing out names.
Through his eye.
But he's just throwing out new god names like Ironbreaker. And she's no.
Oh, so they're trying to come up
with baby names.
Yeah.
While they're sitting there. And
that's the first one I thought of too. Is
Ironbreaker. And there's a lot of just kind of back and forth.
Only for a girl though. If it was a boy, we were going to call him Sam.
Oh, that makes sense.
Sam or Ironbreaker, one or the other.
Whoever Mr. Miracle's texting, I guess they're trying to find ways to help her feel better.
Yeah, sure.
Have Barda feel better, while they're waiting for the baby to come. Because he's like, hey, she says you could eat something spicy. And Barda tells a story about, how, remember when Granny used to make us go to the fire pits and had us open our mouths and told us that we couldn't, she's like, I don't think spicy's going to do anything, kind of.
Why is the Wonder Woman logo back there behind them?
It's just B.A. Wonder Woman.
Oh,
it's like a poster.
Got it.
Yeah.
See it now.
And she's like, she yelled at me, keep your mouth open, little girl. Let the burn go down inside you. And Scott's like, yeah, she always told me it would get better. It never gets better. They're just kind of reminiscing again on their shared terrible childhood there for a bit. And then he just kind of has that thought. He's like, it's kind of weird. This kid that we have isn't going to have to deal with any of that.
Yeah.
And then they have a brief moment of silence, and then he just yells out, Star Razor. He's just still coming up with names. So all of a sudden, there's a very kind of scary human moment where the heart monitor stops beeping, and Barda gets worried, and Scott's like, I can go see the check on it. And they go in and they have to reposition her, and they're still not able to get a heartbeat, and Barda's scared, and she's crying. And then all of a sudden they reposition her. Hear the heartbeat back and able to calm her down. It's just a very, it just builds up the tension of this big moment going on.
Yeah.
There's a moment where he's like, I know you can't have anything. Is there anything I can get for you? And she's like, well, I read, I could suck on ice cubes. And he's like, I'll do that for you. It's a very just him kind of taking care of her in this moment. he walks back out.
I love
to
these
get eyes.
normal human moments that happen in between the weird stuff.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And he walks back out to get all this, and he kind of asks the rest of the female Furies, like, "Hey, are you guys doing okay?" And they're like, "Yeah, we're fine." Lasheen asks, "How's your wife?" And he's like, "Yeah, no, everything's good." And Bernadette walks over, and she's like digging through her bag for something, and she comes back to Scott and says, "There is no birth in Apocalypse. When ready, children are removed and given to Granny. Our Barda's skin will not break with Earth's instruments. This is a Farron knife. It kills gods. I will one day use it to kill you, High Father." And she hands him like this glowing knife. And she goes, "But for now, you may have it. It will cut her as she needs it." And he just looks at it and he goes, "Okay."
Yeah.
And then the next panel is it just sitting over in the corner on top of their stuff.
Yeah, that's
Like,
ridiculous.
and he's just like, "The Farron knife doesn't cut. It makes you burn from the inside." Bernadette got it from her brother, like he's explaining it. And she goes, she's trying to kill me. She's still probably mad about Granny and about what we did.
Yeah.
This isn't her helping me. She's just kind of like here to rub it in, like, hey. And he's like, "I don't know. Everyone's kind of still mad at us for Granny. She's kind of, back in pain." And he just yells out another Thunder Death is the next new god name that he wants to try out.
I don't understand why they're mad at him about Granny, because Granny she tortured all these people.
It's Stockholm Syndrome.
I guess it is. Yeah.
It's the people that live there on New Genesis when you're used to that, that you just kind of feel. Yeah. So it eventually comes through, and it's getting, time for the baby to arrive. They talk about, it's time for the birth to happen, and he goes to hold her hand, and she's trying to kind of calm down and relax herself through. And they talk about, kind of telling stories to kind of do that. And she tells him, "Do you remember Jacob's ladder?" And he's like, "Yeah, of course. It was the only way for us to get out of the X pits where she kept us down there.
Sure.
I used to stare up at it all the time." And she goes, "The book said you're supposed to think of something calm. And so I'm thinking of, Jacob's ladder." And he goes, "Okay, well, that's good." And she goes, "You couldn't see the top of the ladder, but remember everyone told stories, and we all be like, oh, what's up there? What's out, above, out of Granny's reach," kind of in a way." She goes, "It was kind of heaven to us. But I remember before we got together, seeing you trying to climb to escape on that ladder with all the Furies, and we were chasing you as you were about to get out, and you'd look back at us and you'd wave and smile and bow. And you were so handsome, and you'd say, 'I can always escape.' And then we got you." It's just like a nice little, odd kind of memory, but a sweet kind of for her in a way.
But this is all happening while she's going through labor.
Yeah, she's just she's just
trying to keep her
calm,
mind off of it.
She's trying to calm herself down, and to me it seems like she's telling the story of how she slowly began to develop feelings for Scott in a way. It's her calming moment.
And by the way, as you're going through this, you are getting some disruption still, like that VHS disruption.
You are getting
stuff. Yeah. Every once in a while.
Every once in a while to make you always question, hey, what's going on through all this?
Absolutely.
And all the doctors are praising her, and they're able to kind of get her calm and get the birth going. And the baby comes out, and she notices it's not crying. There's no crying, because the
umbilical cord.
Thank you. Is wrapped around the poor baby's throat, and it is very blue, and it does not look well. And the doctors are trying to cut it with everything they have, and nothing is getting through this. And then one of them's like, "Try the bone saw. Never tell them we need it with the diamond blade, and we need it now." Somebody, they're all rushing, and he goes over and he grabs Scott goes over and grabs the Farron knife that Bernadette gave him, and he's like, "Just show me where to do it." And they hold it, and they're able to cut the
umbilical cord.
Umbilical cord. I don't know why it's giving me such a hard time today. Anyway, and the baby is able to breathe, and we get the big cry, and he comes back out, and he collapses in the chair, and you can tell it's a harrowing moment where it's like, baby's safe, but they've obviously been through a lot, and he just tells them his name's Jacob. Obviously, they name him from the story of the Jacob's Ladder story. Yeah. But also, I think we've talked about it before too. Jacob was Jack Kirby's first name.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah.
Then they ask about Bard, and he tells her she's great, she's strong, she's awesome. And they are like, yeah, she was always so strong. And sweet little Jacob It's finally time, they're like, oh, that's so sweet. And Scott goes and he goes, thanks for the help. And here's this. And he hands the knife back to burn to death. And she goes, as I said before, when we return to war, I will use this to kill you. And it just shows Scott in the next panel rubbing his eyes, just tired, going, yeah, okay.
Yeah, all right.
Like he's like, sure, whatever. And they go back, and it's a really sweet moment to close out issue 7 here. And Barda's holding little Jacob, and she tells Scott, I like him. I think we should keep him, kind of thing.
Yeah.
And, it's grandson of Darkseid, son of High Father, the first child born of Apocalypse, a new Genesis, a new God. And she calls him a little miracle. And Scott looks at him and goes, I don't know. He looks more like just like a lump is what he calls it. And the reason they're able to do that is because you're able to use the Kirby narration from issue 7 then about it, because it has it where it brings it out of, the Mr. Miracle. And it's only the arena of gods would, produce this combat. Only vile granny goodness would find an adversary like the lump. Like, and it plays it in with the panel that are on there too.
But again, in that one, you get like 3 different panels where it gets disrupted again. Yeah.
But anyway, we have a new kid for the Freeze.
A new kid god.
The new god, the first one on Earth. Yeah. And the baby is here as the war is about to really kind of kick off, at least for the part that we're going to cover. And we will go ahead and pick up and cover the last 2 issues here of part 3 of Mr. Miracle right after this. Welcome back into Bros, Foes, and Heroes here as we pick up with the second half of part 3 of our Mr. Miracle. I almost said coverage, but I guess it kind of works as coverage.
Yeah.
But we'll pick up here with issue 8 of where things are going to. We got a very personal human issue with issue 7 of the birth of the baby. We're going back to Apocalypse for a lot of the next 2 issues. And we're going to deal with the war kind of head on and what's going on there and see how they're having to balance between the duties of being High Father of New Genesis and having to deal with being new parents. And it's the way that they do it, to me, is just a very great way of balancing both of them here. But we are taken to New Genesis and we see it looks like this dictator who very much kind of
it looks like Hitler.
It does, but any comics, that's how it is. But it's a dictator there, obviously, like leader of some sort, kind of riling up troops there on New Genesis. And we see that he is taken out via like a sniper shot. And we see then that it shows Scott as dressed up all in his Mr. Miracle garb, and Light Ray, who is now his kind of second in command since he is now High Father. And he's telling them, send the 6th and the 4th Winged Cavalry. Here's something that little things that you pick up on, though, that come back from earlier issues. He tells them, but put the bugs in reserves. We'll wait for them to counter. Remember how they talked about earlier about how he always, it's even brought up, he's telling Light Ray, we'll send in more of the new gods. We don't need to, and we'll do that. Yeah. And he's like, yes, High Father. So you can see how some of the stuff that was brought up earlier comes back around even there in the way that he leads. And then what we have through this whole issue in issue 8 is the war intercut with moments of everyday life, because what they're doing is they'll take turns. Scott will go fight and Barda will take care of Jacob. Barda will go, Scott will go fight. Barda will take care. Barda will go fight. Scott will take care, and they flip back and forth while Funky is kind of like their nanny as well.
Goddamn Funky.
I like Funky in this though.
Yeah, I got it.
And so they're sitting there and he's heating up the water in the microwave, and you just get from Funky, Big Barda uses the kettle. And Scott goes, and I like the microwave. And he's like, yeah, well, the kettle's faster. That's what Big Barda says. And he's like, well, Tuesday's my day. And she's on the front line and I'm at the microwave. It's kind of what he's telling him there. And so it's the back and forth of the argument of their styles of how to do it. Yeah. But he sets the bottle in his coffee cup and they sit there to watch it warm. And I just love that panel there of them looking at the coffee cup with a bottle in it that just says "I am God," which is the same coffee cup from earlier.
Yeah.
And then in typical funky fashion, he just looks at it and yells "Excelsior." Just a nice little bit of Stan Lee in there
great.
too.
Yeah.
There's a lot of this too, and this carries through this issue as well. It's showing him feeding the bottle to Jacob while he's singing the, the hush little baby, don't say a word. And he's singing all out through it. And we do have some distortion in one of the 9 panels there as we do it, just to kind of make you question what's going on. This book loves to do that to you, and I kind of like that part of it. Then we go back to the war where it shows him kind of leading. One thing that I noticed on here, they're fighting an apocalypse. That is a giant dark side statue to have to fight over.
It's gigantic.
Just looming over you.
Yeah.
But they are obviously, it's just massive battle. And he's like telling him there's no escape. Come on, we can't let him win. He's just kind of leading the troops. And it's showing just all this kind of like carnage and stuff that he's having to deal with. And then it's cut in between, and we go back and we see that he got injured here. But he's talking to Barda, like on the phone while he's getting healed, his legs, healed up.
Right.
And Barda's just telling him, like they're just talking about how many hours the kid slept. Just like between 1 and 2 hours. And Scott's like, is that good? She's like, it's better than what we've been able to do. He only sleeps in the car. Like, Betty said that they put their car seat in the kid's room and just slept in the car seat.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like this war is going on. And the two of them are just, trying to figure out a way to get the kid to sleep while they heal up his leg. And it's funny, I like here at the end, as she's reading, she goes, I'm so tired. I might try it. I read that you forget this part later somehow. It's evolution or God. That's why people keep having these things. They forget the pain. And it's that part. And I love they forget the pain.
That's very true, too.
While the laser's like finishing healing him up, too. It's just kind of one on top of the other. This is one of my favorite pages throughout the book because I think it's just hilarious. Scott comes he's carrying Jacob to kind of lay him down for a nap, and he stops above the crib, and you get the shot like from the crib looking at them looking down so you don't see what's in there. And he goes, Funky? And then you just see from the other room, Mr. Miracle, like he's, as he's coming in, and he goes, what is this?
He likes to make an entrance.
Yeah, and you look down and there's like a plush Batman in the crate or in the crib
little
there.
Baby Batman.
And he goes, why, boss? That's Batman. And I love how he drew him with the little horns like he's doing. Yeah. The bat ears. And see, Scott's just telling him, like, I told you, like, they've done studies about, infant death syndrome and babies dying and stuff. Stuff in cribs kills them. Like, we don't want anything in there. Yeah. And he goes, what do you mean? I had a Batman. Everyone has a Batman. Batman doesn't kill babies. And Scott goes, yes, absolutely. They have studies. Batman kills babies.
Wow.
So that's...
Yikes.
It's just a funny back and forth.
Yeah, no, it's
While, if you'll notice, it's kind of hard to tell. It is a Watchman shirt that he's wearing. It's the smiley face pin. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Well, he was wearing a Wonder Woman one in the earlier one.
Yep. So then we flash back between that and something so, kind of funny and heartwarming to something a little bit deeper.
Stark.
And we talked about the Drask color change. They're on New Genesis, so it's the black borders and it's all dark and it's all red and it's all and it's just Scott and Light Ray standing next to each other, and Light Ray just tells him it's wrong. That's all he says. And he's telling him, like, we don't have the room to do it. We just have enough tubes to be able to carry supplies. Like, we don't have room to bring much of anything back. And Light Ray tells him Orion wouldn't, and he cuts him off and he goes, Orion isn't, and Darkseid is. So get it done now. And he's like, you want to be a god, Scott, but you're just playing another role on another stage. And you're sad that everyone's not clapping. And he zooms off and he just tells him, he's like, what, basically, whatever, Light Ray, just make it clean. And Light Ray kind of shoots off and creates this giant just gulch all throughout wherever they are. And it's for them just to dump all the dead that they have there.
Gotcha.
And so it's kind of this moment that you see. I'm making sure this is the right. No, we're getting there. And that's it. Like, he's dealing with this stark reality of them having to go and just like unload all the ones that they've lost kind of into this pile. And while he's doing that, though, Barda we have through the mother box, however they're talking to one another, telling him about like, oh, Jacob's doing this. I looked at him and I told him not to, and he smiled at me. Oh, he's such a little flirt. And then I gave him, I always call it raspberry, but I gave him a Zerbert on his arm. Yeah. The little,
yeah.
And they're talking about, and she's like, and he laughed. He went, and he goes, oh, that's his laugh. Like she's having just this sweet moment while he's sitting there having to deal with.
While he's dumping dead people into
and it's just like a different kind of
No, it's very
from one another.
it's about as far as you can get from each
and
other.
It's just showing what they're having to deal with from one to the other, because then they'll flip and he'll have to, do what she's doing.
Sure.
And that's what they're essentially, it's, it cuts back to him on Earth out at the park, and he's explaining that to, I guess, one of their friends, where he's like, whenever I'm at work, Bart is here, and whenever Bart is at work, I'm here, and we work at the same place, and we have a lot of work, man.
Nightwing?
Yes.
Thank you
Nightwing.
very much. I appreciate
that. That was nice.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah. He's
wearing a
Nightwing
Nightwing
t-shirt.
Yeah, t-shirt.
And I'm pretty sure I didn't look at. I don't know what the babies is. The babies might be something too. This is another one.
He's still got his Batman though.
He does still have his Batman. So even if he got to keep it, Batman stays around.
We didn't say he couldn't keep it. He just didn't want it in a crib. Yeah.
We flash back to Apocalypse, and I think this is hilarious too. Is he's talking to Barda, and he says that you challenged Kanto one-on-one, and that the loser has to take their armies away from the field.
Yeah.
And it's just silent. And he goes, they say that Kanto's ready, and I guess that they're gonna charge if not. And we just get the expletives from Barda, and she's like, "Damn it! Like I forgot. I'm already at the doctor. Like I know. I'm sorry. I need to ask her about the feedings." And I love this part. Scott goes, "I could do the appointment," and Barda just replies, "Scott, what do you know about my breast?" And then there's just a moment where he just kind of stares off into it, and then it's expletive again, and he's like, "You stay, I'll do Kanto." And she's like, "I'm sorry." He's like, no, it'll be easy. That's okay. I'll go ahead and I'll fight him. And then it takes us to Kanto, where Kanto just beats the mess out of Scott in this fight. And it's him being carted off afterwards. And you just see Barda saying, "She said it's normal." And he's like, "Good. I like normal. Normal's good." And she's like, "How'd it go with Kanto?" And Scott just goes, "Yeah, we're leaving the field. We're going to do an approach around from the east in the fall. I think it'll be better that way."
Yeah. It's cool that he's like trying to keep her out of it.
Yeah. He's like, "I'll do it." And she's like, "I'm sorry." And he's like, "No, I'm sorry. I almost had him." And she goes, "I'm sure you did." Like there's a little, and he's just kind of like, "Oh, what are we doing here?" As they cart him off.
Yeah.
That's when it has the moment. "I think we should try the car seat thing. Who knows?" And she's like, "I'm with you. Whatever we can do to get sleep." And it takes him back there, and it's just talking about how they're going to give Jacob tummy time. And Funky doesn't like, he's like, "Oh, I don't understand. What is this?" And he's like, he's supposed to do it to be able to crawl. Like he needs his tummy time. He's behind everybody else. And we get a little bit of peppering in because some of the stuff I've alluded to later.
Yeah.
But Funky goes, "Oh, Balderdash." Jolly Jack knows what Jolly Jack needs. He starts throwing in the nicknames for Jack Kirby all the way back then.
Yeah.
Because he goes, he needs his Funky. And who's a little funky? That's right. You're a little funky. Like he's just being like the, little.
Yeah, he's being like an uncle or whatever. Yeah.
And he goes, this isn't how Granny did it. And he sits there, and Funky's still playing with me. He goes, "Can you say Funky? You're a genius." "Yes, you are genius, Jack," which is another nickname that he is for him. And then it's just a moment of him realizing, like, all right, it doesn't have to be like it was for me, kind of thing.
Yeah.
But then you get the complete 180, like they like to do a lot of here, and they're back on Apocalypse, and it's one of those parademons.
Superboy?
No, that's Superman. So in the 2000s, you see how it's red and blue here?
Yeah.
This could be me, and I could be wrong here.
We're talking about his shirt.
His shirt again. In the 2000s, they decided to do something where they split Superman, and there was a red suit Superman and a blue suit Superman kind of thing. And I think it's just a cute little, of why it splits like that. Or there's a little distortion. It could be done on purpose there too for just that kind of thing. Anyway, they're back on Apocalypse, and there is this parademon that they've killed. And it looks to be like a little baby parademon, for lack of a better term.
Yeah.
And he's like, "I didn't know they had babies. I thought they were cloned or something." And Light Ray looks at him and he's like, "You're the one who was born here. You should know what sizes they come in."
Well, that's true.
And he starts raising his hand to like shoot him. And he's like, "No, Light Ray, don't." And Light Ray just kind of like kills him anyway.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just a moment of Scott. Like, obviously he's like, no, that was somebody's kid kind of thing.
Yeah.
We see that the humanity of Scott is kind of changing. Although he was out of the group, he's been the one who's had it the whole time compared to everybody else.
I will tell you, after having kids, your thoughts on things like that do change quite a bit.
And I think it's also kind of
Very
showing
hard to watch a movie where a kid gets hurt or something,
and I
at
think
that point.
they're trying to show that with of just how it's changing
Yeah.
everything about Scott.
Yeah.
There's a moment where it's like Scott and Barda are arguing because she's on the war front, about what they need to do and how they need to advance troops. That's going on in the background. While in the foreground, it's Funky just trying to feed Jacob with like an airplane and stuff to get him to eat. So it's like he's not being able to be a part of it while everything's going on because they're still focused on everything. Booster Gold t-shirt.
Yeah, you're also seeing time pass because the kid's got hair now.
Yeah. Like this
So,
whole,
Yeah.
like we're going into
This is
probably
like
about
a
a year or
year.
so.
Yeah.
I can tell you, we'll end with issue 9. Issue 10 is his first birthday party.
Oh, okay.
So that's
That
kind of
makes
the
sense.
time that's spanning
Yeah.
through this.
Yeah.
Then we go back to New Genesis where it's more fighting. Scott gets stabbed straight up in the back, but he's able to kind of escape. But it's a real taxing moment coming up. And then we get cuts between. That's what I like. We get the cut between. This is something, family.
Yeah, it's
this
just
is what
such a
and then
huge
it's
difference
war,
between the two.
family, war,
Yeah.
family, war.
Yeah.
And it's just showing you how he's getting pulled back and forth
Yeah.
and back and forth. And it's just them trying to get Jacob to take his first steps. And he's sitting there and Funky's like filming and he's like, I don't think Barda can see. And he like holds it up to his face and she's like, now all I can see is your damn nose hair. Put it back on him, and he's like, and they're trying to see, letting her be able to see the big moments like that.
Sure.
And then it's cut back to him on Apocalypse and on the warfield or the battlefields. And it's him just kind of walking around with his mask in his hand as he's singing again from earlier, the Hush Little Baby, but it's kind of spaced out as he's looking around at him and just all the carnage and everything that has kind of transpired. And we even get a dark, like he just kind of like collapses of just like, this is a lot. And we get a dark side is showing that it's kind of creeping in there.
You also get distortion before the dark side
That's
is.
true.
Yeah.
And then as he's sitting there, just kind of almost like sobbing, like what's going on, he gets a ping from Barda. And she's like, you got to listen to this, Scott. Funky, show him the picture. And it's like every time that, forgot the kid's name. Every time Jacob sees a picture of Scott, he says, da, like he's starting to put it together.
Yeah.
And Scott hearing that, it's just kind of like a
And this
click
is
for
still
him.
hearing it on the battlefield.
Yeah, he's there, but him hearing that, it's just kind of like a click for him. And he kind of pushes himself up. He kind of gets, as she's telling him and he's hearing it.
Kind of rejuvenates him.
Exactly.
Yeah.
As he finishes out the singing of the song that carried over with a little more gusto and kind of emphasis.
Emphasis.
Yeah. As he heads out.
Aquaman.
Yes, it is.
There you go.
There
Thank
you go.
you very much.
Hey.
I'm trying.
Yeah.
I'm trying real hard.
And it shows them back on Earth, but somehow both of them are there on Earth together. And Barda's just laid Jacob down. And they're
you can
like,
tell it's late.
Yeah, it's late. Like he's
Because
watching.
all the lights are off.
He's watching football.
Yeah.
I know that because it's Campbell pulls back, launches long, intercepted. You kind of hear, he's watching whatever. And you get the click of the TV. So he turns it off for the two of them to have some, time together finally.
Sure.
And they sit there and they're just kind of cuddling and talking about, hey, Funky seems to be getting the hang of it. Maybe we finally have a little bit of free time to ourselves. And they kiss and about as they're kissing, the wah kind of comes up.
Yeah.
And she goes, it's your turn. And he goes, I can always escape. And she goes, can you? Like from
you're not escaping.
Yeah,
that, dude.
exactly. And he's like, all right. And so he just goes into the other room. We get a panel of distortion again as he picks him up. And he's like, all right. And he just kind of rocks him to sleep again, singing Rockabye Baby again. I guess that's the name of the song.
Yeah, I guess.
That takes us to our final issue of part 3 and our next little cliffhanger here then to set us up for the final bit of the story.
Who is that he's
Calabac, I'm pretty sure is his name. One of Darkseid's sons.
Oh, okay.
He's going to be kind of like Kanto was. We'll see Kanto again here, who Scott just, lost to in the last issue. But what we get is they are back on Apocalypse. We are going to have peace talks because Scott has realized, and it'll get to a little bit more, and break it down, but Scott has realized that they can't do this. Like we've
Yeah.
seen that in
Yeah.
some of the previous ones. Like we knew.
Well, it's unsustainable.
They
like,
don't
to do both of these things at the same time.
Well, that and they don't have the resources to be able to beat Apocalypse.
Right. They can fight. They just can't win.
Exactly.
Yeah,
And
I
like
gotcha.
we've known that for a while now, but they
Yeah.
kept trying, hoping it would get better.
Yeah.
Now it seems like peace is the only way. So they have all traveled to Apocalypse, and it's there for day. It'll count it out. This
Yeah.
goes day by
Day
day on
one.
this one. And you get to see it sets up this just, hellscape of a place to kind of set
Yeah,
up
it's a hot ass
Apocalypse.
planet.
It is. It's very hell-like. And we see Scott stand up and he just goes, "Is there a restroom?" Like that's what it opens it up. And I love how when they do the 3 panels
Yeah.
to do a whole picture, though,
Yeah.
again, we have captured new gods
Mhm.
as the bases of the tables.
Holding up the table.
Yeah, because they're like, "Oh, hey,
They're all chained to the
come
floor.
sit at this table to talk peace that your fellow new gods are holding up," kind
Yeah,
of thing. Like
yeah.
that's how they are here at Apocalypse. But I just love how they use the 3 panel to make one giant shot.
Yeah, it's
and still
cool.
kind of
Yeah, it's still split, but you can still see like the entire picture at the same time.
Exactly. So he kind of tells him, "Is there a restroom here or something?" And Kanto's like, "Yeah, I can take him." And he's like, "All right, y'all go do that. And then we need to go ahead and work. We'll take a break and then we'll come back to like this treaty kind of
Mhm.
thing." And he's like, "All right." So they start walking down the hall and he's telling him like, "How have you been? You haven't been here for, in a long time." And he's like, "Man, like, Kanto's like, "Yeah, I used to live in Renaissance Italy. I usually hardly come back here."
He looks very much like a Renaissance
Yeah,
guy.
he kind of fits in there. He's like,
Mhm.
"I hear it's the solar winds that make this place so awful. It's becoming a little bit more better to live here."
So
but
they're
it still
basically talking
sucks.
the weather.
He's just
you know?
he's just kind of like BSing
How
him
you like
as they're
this weather?
walking they're walking to the restroom, which just happens to be a giant.
It's
like,
a giant
pit.
hole.
It's
yeah.
like this
Mhm.
hole from 300
Yeah.
that Gerard Butler
Yeah. Yeah.
kicks the guy into. It's just that, and that's their restroom.
But they just walk past somebody's head on a pike.
That's one of the Forever People
Wonderful.
from Jack Kirby. The whole Fourth World.
Mhm.
I can't remember his name, but yeah. So it's just kind of like to show you that they're in a losing battle. And
Yeah, sure.
And Scott notices,
Sure.
like that's
Yeah.
what he's like, right? And he's like, "Oh, that's he's starting to realize, I know that guy, I know that guy. It's just the people they've lost, kind of thing."
Yeah, this Cantu guy doesn't say anything about
Nope.
it.
He just keeps going
Yeah.
by it. But they get there to there's one thing as they both stand there and they start to pee. Kanto's going to tell a story, and I'll
Mm.
tell you the story that Kanto tells.
Okay.
But there's also an animation. It takes 2 pages to tell this story. But he sits there and he's like, for lack of a better term, kind of like spits out. Well, I was going to say hawking, like a,
Yeah,
like
he
a-
hawks a loogie.
yeah,
Sure.
and just like spits it out. And the panels are just following that spit
Mhm,
follow
mhm.
or fall down
Just
to the
keeps
bottom.
going and
Yeah,
going and
as
going
the
and
story
going.
tells.
Yeah.
But the story tells. I'll tell the story and then I'll give you the punchline for the other part. He's telling him while they're sitting there peeing. Kanto looks over at Mr. Miracle kind of and goes, "I had a thing with Leonardo da Vinci, the painter." And Scott's like, "Yeah." And he's like, "The Mona Lisa." And he's like, "Yeah, I know who
I
he
think
is."
he knows who you're talking about.
Yeah, and he's like, "He was all right. He had a boyfriend, but was one of those complicated, whatever."
Mhm.
But it was nice. It was real nice. And he's like telling him, like afterwards one time we were just lying on the grass or hay, something. He's like, "I don't really know the difference. Like I'm a new guy. Whatever
Yeah,
it
sure,
is."
sure.
And he was like, "Anyway, we're lying there," and he starts crying. And I thought that it was the boyfriend or some religious kind of blah blah. And I was going to tell him, "Oh, no, it's okay." And then he starts to tell me this story about these 2 guys, a master and his apprentice. And he tells them, our artist. And I'm like, "What does this have to do with the price of tea in China?" And he's just like, "Shh, listen." And so here's the story. The story is, so the apprentice thinks he's better than his master. And he challenges his master to this contest, right? This painting contest of who can paint the better painting. And it takes a whole year for the apprentice to finish this painting. And then they both go to show it off in front of an audience. And they're outside and the crowd is there. And the 2 of them, they've got their painting there.
Yeah.
And the apprentice pulls back the curtain. And after a whole year of work, it's just some grapes, right? It's not even a lot of them. It's just like 6 grapes on a plate.
Okay.
And all of them there are kind of just looking at it crazy. And he just has this puff chest. He's so proud of his grapes. And the audience is like, "Grapes, I mean, that's nice. But against the master, that's what you're going to do
Yeah,
is
sure.
grapes."
Right.
And they think he's gone crazy. Like, all right, this got to him or something. And then the apprentice just kind of ignores what they're saying. and just kind of calmly looks up towards the sky. And there's birds that he notices. And the birds fly down and they look and they fly towards the picture. And then they start pecking at the grapes because they're trying to eat the grapes.
Right.
Because they're so good and they look so perfect like they're actual grapes. Because to the birds, it's not art. It looks like what it is.
Sure.
It is what it is.
Sure. It's great.
And that's better than what it is.
Yeah.
And the audience goes nuts. And the apprentice is bowing and smiling and pointing at the birds. He's won, and he knows he's won, and he turns to the master and he points at the master's painting and he says, all right, now, he says, all right, not that there's a need, but let's see what's behind your curtain. And the master says, what curtain? But while this whole story is going and he's telling him is it better to kind of, just accept reality of there's the undertone there that we've been following. It ends with the last one hitting somebody chained up down at the very bottom of the pole.
That sucks. Poor guy.
I know, but it's the whole joke. Is sitting there.
Yeah.
And then after that
God,
long
it's so
story,
far down.
Yeah, we get back to day 2 of peace talks,
Yeah.
and I love that they make it where Calabac has to pull out his readers because we've now have this established there,
sure.
looking over these. He's a son of
Looking
dark
over
side, but
contracts
he
and
needs to look
stuff,
over
sure.
these, peace talks.
Yeah.
And he's like, all right, I have the rate of withdrawal from the mountains of blood at 38 days. But is this the NG calendar or the AP calendar we're working off? Like apparently New Genesis and Apocalypse have 2 different calendars.
Well, sure.
And they don't know what they're working off of. And he's like, I believe that this is the NG calendar. And he's like, or Scott's like, Light Ray, do you have that? And Light Ray's just kind of like, what are we doing here?
It's like a business meeting.
It is, as they're discussing peace. And he's like, yeah, I think we can go back and change this if we need to. And he's like, Light Ray, do you have that? And Light Ray just stands up and he's like, all of you, y'all are all scum, kind of like, you guys killed Orion, my friend, my Lord, my Savior. I will burn all of you and laugh if your ashes float away in a wind. And they all just kind of like stare at him like, what?
Yeah,
whatever, dude.
Yeah.
And Barter just tells him, oh, shut the F up, Light Ray. Like, just sit down, you blowhard. And he just sits down and he just kind of like picks up his papers again, just so sadly with the rest of the group.
He got it out.
Yeah, he got it out. And then they're like, all right, back at it. And he's like, let's just assume from this point going forward, everything's the NG calendar.
Sure.
Then we get, day 3. It's all these just like little stories as these peace talks are going. Day 3, they've snuck out somewhere and Barta has this stuff called bone wine.
Has he always had that big collar?
The behind him?
Yeah. Like cowl.
Not all the time. He doesn't always wear
I
it.
see it. It's red.
But sometimes, like out in battle, usually not because it would make sense. But he has it sometimes.
It looks like a Thor / Doctor Strange.
It looks very Doctor Strange cowl.
But without it, he looks a lot like Iron Man. And so when he has that thing on, it does separate it a lot for me.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, anyway, all right. It doesn't mean anything. But go ahead.
And she has some bone juice. Bone wine. And she's like, yeah, I got some. And he's like, I used to drink that Granny would make you, like make us all drink it. Kind of, I guess it's, their alcohol of some sort. He goes, Highfather told me Granny's secret that she uses the bone marrow of captured gods for. That's why it tastes so good.
Wonderful.
And Barta tells him like, well, yeah, Granny showed me kind of how to make this stuff too. Like I know how to make bone wine and other things as the female fury.
Toilet
Granny
wine.
Yeah.
Sure.
But we would have to make all these, this giant kind of like stockpile of it and take it to your dad. When she says dark side, it's funny. She always calls him your dad.
Wow.
She goes and take it to your dad. And we would always drink half of it before we even got there. And he would be so mad. And I love it. Scott goes, yeah, well, I wouldn't take it personally. He was always mad. And it's just a nice little moment between the two of them. And then we go back to day 4.
It's a nice little moment between the two of them, but it's on the battlefield also.
It so is.
Yeah.
It's just a nice little like.
It's just a great juxtaposition.
There you go.
Between,
look at those big words.
Yeah, between the setting and the talk.
And then we go back to the more peace talks, and Caliban is telling him, like, you agreed to these terms 2 days ago.
Yeah.
The fact that you're trying to come back around and bring in something called the Sun Sword Commission report at this stage is preposterous. There's a lot. And he's like, what are you talking about? If we're talking about prisoner exchange, we can't talk about it without that commission. Like it seems to be just like the fair trading of like, to make sure.
Yeah, they're getting down to the minutia here.
And he's like, which is something you could have said 2 days ago. And he's like, it's not something I thought I had to raise. I thought that, we could be kind of just humans enough to know that if we were going to do it, this is what we're going to do. And he's like, oh, I should have known, just new Genesis legalism. Nothing is what you actually say. And Scott isn't backing down from it at all. And he just tells him, typical apocalypse lies. Everything is just what it is, right? A lie. And so they're kind of going back and forth. And he goes, you're a lie, a son of dark side that betrayed his people. You're a shit stain on the name of, your dad kind of. And Scott looks at him and goes, yeah. And what are you? The forgotten child, the mistake. The only reason he likes you is because everyone else left. Is like, Scott's just kind of getting personal back with him.
Yeah.
And Calabac lifts the table up, grabs one of the new gods that's chained underneath it, rips him kind of off of it, and just throws him very violently into the wall. And we get
kind
the
of
panel.
Explodes when he hits
Into the wall. And he sits there and he just growls, just like, looking at Scott, just kind of like, come on, let's go. And Scott tells him, he goes, is it enough? And he's like, tell that guy about your commission. And he goes, Calabac, when will you finally learn I'm not some new Genesis toddler? I'm not Orion eager to play. I'm Granny Ray's. If you want to try to scare me, that's fine. But what I'm saying on this is final. Like, this is what we're going to do.
Yeah.
And he just kind of like, and accepts it. And he just sits back down and he's like, prisoner exchange will, be governed by the commission. That's it. That's the effing word of it. Like, he just kind of puts it down.
Sure.
And Caliban's just like, yeah, whatever. And sits down. And we get a dark side because we flash back to their room and Scott is just curled up in like the fetal position, shaking.
Yeah.
Because obviously it bothered him a lot more than he tried to let on.
Yeah.
And that's the thing, is there's a moment where it's kind of a weird juxtaposition between the two of them, of where like it got to him a lot. And he's like, I can't, my teeth are chattering. Like, I can't get him to stop. Like, I'm just like, it's getting to me. And she's just like, hey, like, don't worry about it. You didn't do anything wrong. Like, he wasn't going to survive anyway. Like, he was already chained up there. He did it just for show. Like, it's not something you did. Like,
sure.
You did more good here than bad. And he's just like, but I can't. He's like, but if I breathe, or when I breathe, they stop. If I stop breathing, the chattering stops. And she's just like, you need to breathe, Scott. Just like he's having a little panic attack there. And then it just ends with, you smell that? They're burning the dead again at this time of night. And then it just goes to day 5, where Calabac feels like he's going to get a little bit of his revenge on them.
It's just so weird how everything's normal.
It is, but it's
even
kind of
in these extreme settings and stuff.
And so Calabac comes and he goes, hey, I brought you a gift to celebrate the progress we've made here with our peace treaties. And he sits there and Scott's just like, oh, wonderful. What is it? And he stands up and he kind of like, tosses it down the table to him. And it looks like it's a mirror. And Scott goes, the mirror of goodness. Like, you can tell it like kind of throws Scott a bit for a loop. And Calabac goes, well, when you mentioned dear Granny yesterday, I thought of it. And I mean, she's not using it anymore because you killed her. Like, they're just trying to still rub it in of like, what Scott did. And so it has them back to the room there. And Bart is telling him like, it's a negotiation tactic. He's just trying to get into your head. And he's like, I know. But the thing about this mirror, right? It's like, and she's like, yeah, I know. He goes, she tells him to go ahead and just throw it in the pit. Like, we don't even need to deal with it. And he's looking at it. He goes, did Granny ever make you look into the mirror? And she's like, yeah. And he goes, well, me too. Barty tells him that after every corrective surgery, every skin graft, every laser removal or whatever she'd done to make us look, and she'd say the same thing. And Scott finishes her reply. On the outside, you're beautiful. And then Barty says, and on the inside, you're mine. And she just goes, be it ever so humble. And they just kind of laugh at it.
Yeah.
But then Scott takes the mirror to the next room and just kind of sets it up. And he says, I don't know if it's some incantation to see it because he looks normal before, but it's just kind of a very sad moment then of just showing how, I guess, on the outside, Scott looks just fine and well all put together.
On the inside, he looks like his skin's been ripped off. Both of them. Yeah.
But I think it's just
probably the way they actually look.
True. But I think it's a very sweet moment as she just kind of comes and to comfort him there. Yeah. But so they get back to.
But you have to think they probably stuck together.
Like, well, that's the thing.
Whenever she hugs him, I'm just saying they got no skin, so they probably.
Oh, okay. No, that's true.
Sorry.
Now I have like a
Yeah. See, that's what I'm saying. It's just that.
okay. Day 6. Oh man. So day
Well,
6.
it makes me think of like from Hellraiser. When they pull the guy's skin
Yeah.
off and stuff. Yeah.
No, I'm with you there.
Yeah.
And he's just telling him. We see that Scott's just becoming kind of more that leader because he's telling him no. He's like, what I did, what I endured, what we all did, what this place does to everyone, like what Darkseid does to everyone. No, he's like, my people will fight and they will bleed and they will fall and they will rise again victorious. Like he's just kind of telling them like, we're not going to just put up with this. Like we're going to make these needs. We're going to get this done and I'm going to take care of my people.
Yeah.
They go back and it's him and Kanto again in the restroom as they're standing next to each other. And I kind of like this. And he goes, hey, you did pretty well in there. I mean, Darkseid still got the anti-life equation, but he can, he goes, but can he use it? Like that's all you got there. And Scott's like, I got peace. Like it stopped something.
Sure.
And he's like, yeah, Calabac seems mad. So you kind of got that going for you too. Like, that's something you can hang your hat into. And there's just like silence as they're peeing again. And he looks back. Kanto looks at him and goes, hey, do you remember that Da Vinci thing? The painter from like the first day? And Scott goes, yeah. And Kanto goes, I made that up. Like I tried to get with him, but he wasn't having me. He had a boyfriend. That part was true. Yeah. And Scott goes, what? Like, why? And Kanto just goes, I don't know. I guess you pissed with the son of God. You got to say something, even if it ain't true. Like, it's just, they have a good job of just throwing in little bits of humor through everything. And then I guess
it would be a little uncomfortable, huh?
Yeah, it would be. Just like, yeah. And it shows the two of them, like on the night of day 6, they go to the Ember Lakes to just kind of, Fire Lakes to just kind of have a sweet moment, the two of them together. Because he's like, I don't know. I feel like I did something wrong. She's like, no, you've done everything right. Like we're about to have peace. Like we didn't win the war, but this is what's right for us. This is what's best for our people.
Sure.
Like, sometimes accept that you're doing the right thing here is what she's trying to tell him.
Yeah.
So it comes to day 7 and Calabac's there as we close out. This is the last day. And he goes, Father has rejected our Darkseid does not agree to these terms. And they're both just kind of like, what? You said you had, the complete authority to kind of deal with him on this. And he's like, he's made an alternative proposition, one that goes further than we have. And Barda's like, doesn't matter. Still going to kill you. Like she's just ready to kind of like,
she's out. Just done.
Yeah. And he's like, Darkseid is willing to withdraw all forces immediately. Furthermore, there we go. Darkseid is willing to withdraw all forces immediately. Return all prisoners. Furthermore, he would disarm and allow New Genesis forces to inspect Apocalypse. Kind of like when they're like, oh yeah, you can come in and search if we have weapons.
Yeah, right. Sure.
And he's like, finally, he would also surrender the anti-life equation. He's going to give up the thing he's been after forever. And Scott's like, what? You said that wasn't even negotiable. Like we could even have that.
Yeah.
And he's like, in return for this complete thing to happen, Darkseid humbly asked for only one thing. And Scott just kind of looks at him and goes, and what is that? And Calabac says, he asked for the custody of his only grandchild, Jacob, free. Ooh. He asked that the boy be raised on Apocalypse, that he be raised here as the one true heir to Darkseid.
Yikes.
Yep. And then we flip over and you get the Kirby animation as it's the realization of all of them. And it's like, don't get jumpy, though Darkseid is aboard. The future is still free to all. As Barda goes from shock to anger, and Scott is still in disbelief.
Well, the middle panels are just Darkseid, and you're seeing his eyes start to kind of light up, and he's all in the dark. He's super scary looking.
And you have distortion over all the ones of Barda and Scott, but then Darkseid's just it's a very cool looking picture of Darkseid here. Yeah. And then it's just Scott. We close out with a what? Like he can't believe what's going on.
Yeah.
And then I'll show you because it is the Nick Darrington cover for issue 10. It is a really cool looking cover of just
good looking
Darkseid. Yeah.
Yeah.
But so that's where we are. If
that's a lot to ask for.
That is a lot to ask for, but it goes back to what Scott had to endure himself. Darkseid is essentially asking, hey, you want peace? That's fine. I'll give you peace, but you're going to have to give him your son similar to what happened to you.
All right, Rumpelstiltskin.
Yeah. So that is where we at. There with our story, part 3 of Mr. Miracle. We will close it all out and put a bow on it with part 4 next week.
I
and
can
it
see
gets
why you
really
like
good.
this so much, though. I mean, it's so deep.
It is.
Like there's a lot to it.
Yeah.
You know, it's not your it's not your typical like comic book.
Yeah,
thing.
and there's a lot of other stories out here that deal with stuff like that too. But this was
Sure.
something that there's a lot of things throughout, and I try to hold myself off as best as I can, and I can't always do it. I'm sure you can hear me like get a little bit,
Yeah,
but
sure.
there's just a lot of things, not obviously directly related, but there's just things that I relate to that I feel like a lot of people do when reading through this, and I feel like it's why a lot of people love it as much as they do.
Yeah.
So it is just something that I've oddly enough trauma bonded with a comic book, but
Well, it is a old tale.
Oh yeah.
Redone with superheroes that also intermixes like the fantastical, the all the things, but it ultimately it comes down to just a good versus evil tale and a tale of, well, let's split the baby or whatever, you know, that kind of thing. Yeah. Yeah.
Also, I'll show you, and I have the issue because we'll use the actual issue next week. It's my favorite cover from the entire run.
Yep.
And it's the Mitch Gerads cover for issue 10. I don't know why, but I absolutely love that.
Yeah, it's a birthday party, but it's a Batman themed birthday party with.
It's a very sad cover, but I think it's just gorgeously drawn because it's still Batman stays around because he has that plush Batman. But yeah, so a lot of great stuff to get to as we close out Mr. Miracle. That was
this is cool,
7
man.
through 9.
Yeah, this is a great series.
So, and then don't worry, we have just one more serious week, and then we will have romance comics, and we will have.
I think this is great, though.
Well, thank you. I didn't tell you. I found out that we will also have issue 3 of Beneath the Trees coming out in February.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
I think it's bi-monthly. I don't think it's every month.
Okay.
I think it's every other month because we
sense.
had the one in December, so we'll have one 1st of February.
It's taking forever.
So we'll have that in February too to see what's going on there, as well as romance comics, which I know Mike absolutely loves. I think I might take my little.
I bet there's more animals that get killed in that comic book.
In the romance comics?
Well, maybe that too. I don't
know. And the other ones? Yeah, I'm sure that at least somebody
there's a few
is.
Animals
I hope so.
Dying.
Well, that sounds weird, but you know what I mean.
Yeah, Zach loves it when animals die.
I do not. I love animals too much. But I think I'm going to read some of the romance comics on the way up to see Boys to Men while I'm going to see some romance.
Yeah, you're going to see Boys to Men this weekend.
I am.
Which is it's odd, but it's great. Good for you.
Yeah, it was a gift for my wife. So we're going to see Boys to Men.
Yeah. Well, good job.
There you go.
Are they the end of the road people?
Yeah, that is end of the road people.
Thank you.
All the way go. Actually, I just realized I'm going this weekend. The show that's I don't know. I'll have already gone by the time this comes out. Yeah. So hey guys, the concert went great.
It was great, and he didn't get trapped by ice.
No, I didn't. Oklahoma. Hopefully not. Yeah. Well, this is the last issue.
Yeah, see
last
ya.
episode.
Bye.
It was fun, guys. All right. Well,
no, it's supposed to get gross around here.
It is supposed to get nasty.
That's the only thing we're worried about is ice and cold and stuff. I don't think it's gonna be fine.
No, we'll be fine.
Wait, I just said I don't think it's gonna be fine. That's not what I meant.
You don't think it'll be bad?
I don't think it'll be bad.
Yeah. No, I'm with you. All right.
I think it's a Freudian thing that's coming out. I don't think it'll be fine.
Man, it'll work.
Yeah.
Well, that does it for us on the show today. As always, make sure to check out Rogue Media Network and the Rogue Media Network family of podcasts.
RogueMediaNetwork.com.
And until next time, or as always, we appreciate you taking the time out to listen. And until next time, stay safe, everybody.
Golly kai.
Frozen heroes. Gonna tell you about frozen heroes. Gonna tell you about.
This has been a Rogue Media Network production.